My story of the week, democracy for billionaires. All right, just a few weeks before the South Carolina primary, not only was Newt Gingrich lagging in the polls, he didn't have the resources to compete with the deep-pocketed Mitt Romney. But then came Sheldon Adelson to the rescue. The multi-billionaire casino owner, right-wing donor, and personal friend of Gingrich gave his associated super PAC a whopping $5 million, which it then used to run a series of devastatingly effective attack ads against Romney's record at Bain Capital. This week, we learned that Adelson was doubling down on his investment in Gingrich, with Adelson's wife staking the former speaker's super PAC another $5 million to make him competitive in Florida. I don't happen to think Newt Gingrich is going to be our next president. In fact, I don't think he'll be the nominee. But in the highly unlikely chance he did make it to office, he would move into the West Wing with a direct and personal debt to a lone billionaire unmatched in recent memory. And if this is going to be what politics looks like in the second Gilded Age, it seems altogether important and proper to ask, just who is Sheldon Adelson? In 2008, The New Yorker published a definitive, jaw-dropping 12,500-word profile of the man. Adelson is a huge Republican donor with a history of suing journalists. His fortune comes from his ownership of casinos, including the Venetian in Las Vegas. His most lucrative idea was that Vegas could be a destination for business travelers and trade conventions. But the lion's share of his company's profits come from the casinos he owns in Asia, including several on the Chinese island of Macao. Adelson was granted an extremely rare and lucrative gambling license by the Chinese state, which is more or less a license to print money. According to Adelson's own testimony in a civil suit bought by Hong Kong middleman Richard Suen, Beijing's mayor asked Adelson for help with a resolution pending in Congress that opposed China's Olympic bid on the grounds of its, quote, abominable human rights record. The president of Adelson's company, Bill Widener, told the court that Adelson made an immediate phone call to then Congressman Tom DeLay, who called him back 3 hours later to say the legislation was off the agenda. Adelson was then able to tell the Beijing mayor, quote, the bill will never see the light of day. Don't worry about it. DeLay's spokesperson told a reporter he doesn't recall the conversation and had no role in blocking the bill. Nevertheless, Adelson got the license and edged out bigger casino developers. Today, his net worth is $21.5 billion. This is the heroic John Galt job creator at work, working his influence with the politicians he funds to protect the reputation of the Chinese regime so that they will grant him a state license for gambling that will make him billions of dollars. If that's not the American dream at work, I don't know what is. In his dealings with workers, Adelson has made a name for himself as the most anti-labor casino owner in heavily unionized Las Vegas. Las Vegas Congresswoman Shelley Berkeley, who worked for Adelson until he fired her, wrote, quote, the more I encouraged cooperation with workers, the more I incurred Mr. Adelson's wrath. Over time, I observed Mr. Adelson plot vendettas against anyone whom he believed stood in his way. However minuscule the perceived affront, he was certain to go ballistic, using his money and position to bully any opponent, great or small, into submission. Adelson said he fired Berkeley for violating attorney-client privilege. Adelson's Venetian hotel is non-unionized, and its opening was met with union picketers on the sidewalk outside. Adelson sued to have them removed, arguing that because the sidewalk was technically private property, it was not subject to First Amendment protections. Luckily, he lost. Most troubling are Adelson's views on foreign policy. He's most focused on Israel, where his wife was born and where he owns one of the country's 3 major papers. His views on the Middle East place him far outside a mainstream that is already quite far to the right. He does not believe in a two-state solution, telling Jewish Week last year, the two-state solution is a stepping stone for the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people. He even attacked AIPAC from the right when it circulated a letter in Congress urging members to fund the Palestinian Authority. The New Yorker reports that he referred to the widely praised, respected, and peaceful Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Salam Fayyad as a, quote, terrorist. And it quotes one prominent Israeli journalist saying of Adelson, when it comes to his views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, he is a right-wing extremist who is convinced that Israel is governed by a corrupt, unpatriotic, and illegitimate government. Perhaps most worryingly, Adelson is also a strenuous advocate of war with Iran. You'll notice, of course, Adelson's views on foreign policy aren't very different from Newt Gingrich's. And indeed, in the Daily Beast, investigative reporter Wayne Barrett tracked Gingrich's rightward drift on Israel-Palestine policy over the years as his relationship with Adelson developed, culminating in Gingrich's offensive contention this year that Palestinians are an invented people. Now, whether or not Gingrich comes by his dangerous and morally bankrupt policy views honestly, or whether he views them as a strategic means of keeping Adelson's checks coming, the point here is less Gingrich and Adelson than the new frontier they are forging together. The complete and total breakdown of our campaign finance system, combined with the explosion of inequality, means that such a pairing was inevitable and is likely to grow more common in the future. Think about it for a second. If you were a multi-billionaire, Adelson is worth over $20 billion, how much would you be willing to spend to own the President of the United States? According to Forbes, the $10 million Adelson dropped on Gingrich is what his biggest hotel casino, the Marina Bay Sands, can make in profit in one day. What if he decided to really go for it and gave Gingrich's super PAC $100 million? In fact, it's a testament to the power of the status quo and the force of norms that this campaign hasn't already become a protracted proxy battle between billionaires. For all the talk of horse race coverage of presidential campaigns, perhaps the future of presidential elections will be like actual horse races. Billionaires choose their candidates of choice and hire jockeys, that is campaign staffs and operatives, to ride them. We'll even have an active betting market on the outcome among the masses who watch the wealthy race their playthings. That's a dystopic vision, but if things don't change, that may be where we head.